Excellent. Welcome to our panel discussion on reinventing banking and insurance through digital transformation. Today, we delve into how technology is reshaping the foundational structures of the financial insurance sector. We have a very esteemed panel here. We will discuss and explore the innovations driving change from artificial intelligence to personalized digital experience. We also will discuss the challenges and opportunities these advancements present and how companies can strategically navigate this new digital landscape. Join us and we discover the future of banking insurance in an increasingly connected and digital world. Before we start the panel discussion, I would like the panelists to give a very brief introduction of themselves. On the left of my screen is Andit Ma. Maybe you want to start.
Thanks, Martin. Hi, everyone. My name is Endit Ma, and I'm actually the president for the Risk and Insurance Management Association of Singapore, in short, RIMAS. So we focuses a lot on discussing some of the advancing practice of risk management. And my other profiles sits in the ISO committee for AI, representing Singapore of the 40 countries. And currently, I'm driving a work group creating a Singapore standards for AI management system. Thank you.
Excellent. Thanks, Andit. Very, very impressive. Putty, over to you.
Hi, good afternoon, everyone from Cambodia. My name is Putty Hong. So I'm currently serving as CEO of Etika Life Insurance Cambodia. Etika is part of the Maybank Group. Very pleased to be here and just share, my personal experience in how technologies has been sort of shaping in our life insurance industry business in Cambodia.
Perfect. Thank you, Putty. Again, a very impressive profile. And the last one, Danny.
Hi, my name is Danny. I'm from Singapore. I'm a management consultant by practice, tapping into Singapore's EDG grant. EDG stands for Enhanced Enterprise Development Grant. Right. So what I do is to help the SME in Singapore, and in terms of their digital reform, and also how to go about making use of all the digital technology to help them to enhance and improve their business in terms of improving productivity and in terms of process improvement. That's basically what I do. Thank you very much.
Very, very good. Andit, I will start with you.
Sure.
If we look at AI, the future of work, and we all know that culture and adapting to a landscape will be a key point.
Yep.
Can you give us a bit of background on what strategies are being implemented to ensure employees are equipped to adapt to these new technologies and changing work environments? And Putty and Danny, feel free to chip in.
Thanks. Yeah. So I think maybe I start off from an AI angle, where it is much broader, and then we can narrow down to financial services and the insurance use cases. I think right now we are at a very early stage, right, when it comes to even developing AI within insurance company, within banking companies, right, and how even our customers are interacting and using this piece of technology. As mentioned just now, I'm championing one of these Singapore standard AI management system, where it is a ISO standard known as 42001, which was published last year. So you can imagine how early we are. And it talks a lot about leadership and the context of the organization when it comes to adopting AI. Give everyone a very simple scenario. So are you today creating an AI because you're selling it, or because you're serving another company or someone, or because you are the user yourself, or you're all three? And that fundamentally could actually affect how employees, are being allocated certain types of roles, as well as scaling them, as well as getting in talents, right? Acquiring the right talents in this changing working landscape. So essentially, you could see in the banking sector, I'm pretty happy that a lot of our larger banks are already adopting this continuous learning mindset, right, through coming out with development programs and literacy trainings to help people to first get to know what is AI, right? So, even creating workshops, hackathon, or indirectly creating corporate fundings to basically incubate startups. I think the most recent one is like Goldman Sachs has created engineering essentials. These are internal programs that they help some of their non-technical employees to develop foundational understanding, such as coding, data analytics, and even what is AI, so that you can actually interact with some of these talents, new talents that are purely AI, but they do not know about the banking and the insurance business, right? To have that interaction first, because this is so important. Because humans are the ones who creates AI. It's not AI that creates us, right? So if humans couldn't kind of get their act together to understand each other's capabilities, businesses, even customers, which later on my fellow panelists will talk more about, you won't be able to build a technology that can truly serve customers and also grow the business. I think these are some of the key things that I feel, in terms of continuous learning, development program, literacy, are some of the important strategies that companies should, equip their employees right now, right, in this new environment.
Excellent, Andit. And then I have a follow-up question and I think you briefly alluded to it, is the culture. Because a lot of people are very excited about AI, but there is also fear. We all read about potential job losses, and hey, you advising the Singapore government. I'm sure you're dealing with that one as well. Any ideas?
Yep. I think right now, of course, Danny can talk about a lot more about some of the grants. But you also realize that governments are focusing a lot of policies. They are enabling companies to be able to equip their employees better. For example, you could see SkillsFutures has been increased, right? And essentially, you realize that SkillsFutures is focusing not just on the kind of soft skills, right? But it's also focusing on some of the hard skills, right? That employees should have gathered, right, through interacting with emerging technology, right? To make things even more complicated right now, there are even things like blockchain, right, and AI. It's just at the surface of the discussion, right? So with all this influx of emerging technology, it brings about new types of risk, right? So with this sort of risk, of course, then government wants to be able to help employers as well, right? Because they will know that actually with some of the flexible working arrangement. So recently Singapore just push out this flexible working arrangement, FWA initiatives, right, for companies to be able to negotiate with their employees, stand out what flexible working means to them, right? With some of the decision powers made by employers and some of the helps that can be given by maybe trade unions or even tripartite alliances. So you can see how this ecosystem is being balanced, right, to help both companies and employees while facing some of these headwinds of new emerging technologies, but also be brave enough to dip their feet into some of these emerging trends and have that experimental mindset, growth mindset, that will stop them from sort of thinking, hey, AI is going to replace my job, which is not true statistically. Why? Because we have low birth rates. In 30 years' time, or even 50 years' time, trust me, we have more jobs than humans. Are we not solving a problem now that is coming in the near future? Trust me, this is what all the risk managers are talking about. AI is here to relieve us. Because when we hit 80 years old, who is going to do some of the works that we're doing, say in the banking and insurance sector?
I think that's an excellent point, Andit. And maybe Danny had to work for the government, and I think after that, maybe Footy, I mean, as an actual CEO of a company, you deal with this questions from your employees, I'm sure. Maybe start with Danny.
Yeah, it's true. We in Singapore we are very blessed as an enterprise of operating in Singapore. We have all these grants. The one that I'm working with is EDG, but beside EDG, IMDA as well as NTUC also have all their grants. Recently, in fact, NTUC had came out with a company training committee grant, which is a sum of 70 million Sing dollar under NTUC CTC, they call it. So this is actually not just the training itself, it comes as a project. So it also look into your process redesign, how do you go about making the wage more, increase the wage so that the workers will actually have a better life in terms of serving their needs, because everything is going up in recent years. So these are some of the things that are actually in place. Yep. Okay.
Sorry, I was on mute. Footy, maybe your perspective as dealing with the employees and the questions that are coming from them.
Yeah, I mean, for us here in Cambodia, I think we are a bit lucky, I guess, because, excuse me, one of my employees is very young. I don't think that entered their mind just yet. AI potentially could replace them one day. I don't think that's a concern that we're dealing with at the moment. I think right now and then what they want to find out more is, again, how can they take advantage of this emerging technology to propel their own career growth. So that's a more pertinent question for us to work with now. Yeah.
Excellent. And I think what I gather from this discussion is that the general attitude is fairly positive, which is important, because in order to embrace change, people need to be willing to do it. They need to be open to it. So very positive stories from all three. And then maybe Footy, coming to you as well. We see the age of AI in banking. We hear a lot about generative AI and data analytics insights. And my question to you is, how are those Gen AI and advanced data analytics transforming customer interactions and services, in this particular case, in the life insurance industry?
Yeah, I mean, as we all know, I mean, life insurance typically is quite a low touch industry. I think nobody wakes up and think about, I want to call my life insurance agent today. I have a lot of things to work with. That's not the case. So what the last thing people tend to think of or want to think about, they want to do it once and then they want to completely forget about it. But there's so many things that we can do in between to enhance the experience. So I mean, for us, when we look at technology, I think be it AI sort of tools, is really about enhancing the delivery of services, or just making it I think just more delightful for the customer, because in Cambodian market in particular, I think customers still need to speak to someone because the general understanding or the level of knowledge of the importance of life insurance and broader financial sort of management, financial risk or financial or wealth accumulation management is still low. So they still need someone to walk them through what it means, what the product will do for them in scenario A or scenario B. So how the technology come into the picture is really to facilitate that discussion, making sure it's simpler, faster, a lot more visual, with a lot more optionality, where they can answer a series of questions and you see options popping out that if you prefer to do this, if your preference is that, then there's various options. So it just make it a bit more fun to go through, because typically life insurance conversation isn't as sexy as the banker conversation with the customer. So that I think that's where we come from. And then at the back end is really around the fulfillment. So if something does happen, how quickly we respond, right? If they need to contact us, how do we verify the authenticity of the caller, and then how fast we manage the claim payout. I think that's really in my world as a practitioner, how these technologies sort of help us is really that facilitation of enhancement of the customer experience. You're mute, yeah.
Indeed, Danny, what do you see in Singapore? Maybe also some examples from the banking sectors, if you have them at hand.
Yeah, I wanted to.
Yeah,
Oh,
sorry.
Danny. Sorry.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Danny.
No. Actually, I wanted to share that many years ago, I was actually with insurance company. So back then, of course, everything is manual. Nowadays, a lot of things has been automated because of all the wonderful technology that we are using right now. So with that comparison, actually, that is where you can see all these AI, your other aspect of technology come into place. So I think it takes time to build. It's not going to be something overnight. So yeah, but we can see that the future is there, is forthcoming. So yeah, that's my opinion at the moment. Andy, you were trying to share something earlier?
Oh, no. Thanks, Danny. I think it's really interesting what Vuti and yourself have shared. The idea of actually AI comes in. It isn't something that is going to destroy us or destroy companies, but there is still a possibility if we don't manage the risk well. So one of the things I always like to share with people, yes, that's the negative part, right? But the positive part is where we can achieve what we call equal intelligence. So like what Buti mentioned, human has our own gaps, right? In fact, I think Cambodia is a young country, so you won't face general insurance problem like those that are faced in Japan, where there's aging population, there's low birth rates, and the young people say, why do I need to buy a life insurance anymore, right? But then, you can imagine AI comes in, right, where it actually enables or empowers some of the um, employees who are young, who are, still not familiar with some of the knowledge, makes mistakes. It actually kind of enhances them and helps them to think, right, synchronously with or asynchronously with AI to provide the best offering and solutions to the customer.
And
And I also want to say that actually this is not new. Automation came in before AI, right? Industrial automation, when we talk about using workflow, to automate some of the processes, did it really replace a lot of jobs? At the initial phase, yes, but you realize that many of those individuals managed to upskill themselves, into big data, and today they are in the waves of AI as well, right? And if you think about like JP Morgan's, they created their what they call contract intelligence program, right? So you can see how they think about intelligence, right? Where it actually automates the review of legal documents. We're talking about 360,000 hours of annual work by lawyers and administrator time saved for them to better reshape their legal and compliance policies. So to me, these are actually perspectives that organizations should look at how this sort of emerging tech could just not just about bringing more business, but when you do it right, you bring about an equilibrium, a balance across, the economy. Yeah. So that's something I'd love to share more in the future.
Excellent, and I think you hit the nail on the head. AI in the current state is especially enhancing humans and automate and simplify processes that are in place. And then I think a question I have to all three of you, because to implement AI and AI-driven insights in companies, be it insurance, be it banking, brings its own set of challenges with it. We talked about the culture point of view, but also from a system point of view, adoption point of view, and maybe Andita, start with you. What's the best way you see forward to do that? I think you gave already a good example, JP Morgan, as I recall, but yeah, any other examples are welcome. because I think this is something that most of our audience are struggling with. If you look at the numbers, the digital transformation, AI transformation is still in 72% of the cases not bringing the value that was expected.
Yeah, I think the leadership priority of how artificial intelligence is being used is important. If you take one of the insurance example, Alliance, where they created an AI claim assessment, they spent about $5.7 billion back in 2022. Of course, you guys probably saw a big team of AI people in InsurTech events, right? They basically incubated various types of InsurTech that leverages on artificial intelligence, and they do partnerships, right, with companies, right, to sort of mitigate their risk, right? So what I'm talk about here is in the short run, there may be incidental benefits that companies could gain because of the AI hype, right? But you want to understand that AI has gone through two winters for two very simple reasons: out of funds, out of computational resources, right? But will we be facing the same issue in the next possible winter? Unlikely. But what could be a potential winter that can happen is when people start losing trust, right, in how you are delivering your service. Is this really an employee of this company? Have you made that statement clearly, etc., right? So how do you basically build trust into building up your AI management system, right, before you actually use it in your organization and for your customers? I think it's really, really crucial to successes. Yep.
Excellent.
Yeah, I think to add on to that, some of the challenges faced could be also the legal aspect of things and regulation requirement I'm referring to, because financial institution, like it or not, you have to be subjected to all these requirements. Like for example, we need to look into MAS regulations, right? So your adoption of this new technology will be slowed down in that sense, because that's something that is faced by financial institutions in Singapore, right? And also the cybersecurity risk, as mentioned earlier on by Andy. Okay, you are good, but the hackers are better, right? Because all they need is to find one hole to enter, right? Although in Singapore context, I think we have done a good job so far. So far, so good. Touch wood. Yeah. But in terms of other aspect of cybersecurity, because when you talk about cybersecurity, not only are talking about the CIA, but also other aspect of things, safety, privacy, right, which are actually overlooked by the different government agencies, right? So yeah, and also some of the legacy infrastructure that is still in the financial institutions, right? Because it's not so easy to integrate the new technology to achieve a successful digital transformation if those legacy infrastructure are still in place. So these are some of the challenges I see. Yeah.
Excellent.
Yeah, I mean, just to add on, I think precisely that. So to us, I mean, really in sort of broader Maybank Group Etica world, I think it's really around bringing people along the conversation. So the challenge, I think the challenge has been more around the mindset. I think the company has one less of a big problem, or one fewer of a big problem is the investment. Is the dollar sign. Right? So the board has already agreed that this investment is required for us to achieve all the great things that this thing would bring about. Out of competition, reality, out of the fact that we want to continue to be the leaders, in terms of just giving the light to all our customers, and staying super competitive. But just again, that backdrop is who's doing the real work, right? So it's the people, and it doesn't matter how nice your technology flow is, your tools are, But if people do not make use of them and they do not fully exploit the benefit of the available technology, we're not going to reap the intended benefit. So I think these are really the big issue. I think the legacy systems, I think that's another one. But I think that's a system issue, and it's easier in a sense to deal with. I mean, when we sort the people side, so if we get the mindset pretty much along the same line, and then we can build our transition plan to move our legacy system into more an AI sort of facilitated, or just a newer technology facilitated work processes. Give you an example. Doing the sort of the board meeting minutes these days isn't like the older day. Now we have a meeting like this. We can have the minutes taken just right after the meetings. So all we need is just to review the main content of what's been said, what's been agreed, and who is the person in charge of taking on the action to close off all those agreed points, compared to the older day where we need to listen to hours of recorded conversation and try to figure out what the meaning behind it. So that's just what we have. But to me, always the people. So Maybank has invested, or has still been investing heavily on I think bringing people along. We call it the M25. So Maybank year 2025. That's where we want to ensure that everybody is on the same page. Have a common belief that the future requires to be sufficiently knowledgeable about technologies in related to our field, be it banking, be it insurance.
Excellent points, and I think the point that comes back a lot is trust and regulations, but regulations and trust, I would argue, are strongly related. And I think trust employs to clients, the management, the regulator, but I think you said it eloquently, also to employees. And I would almost call it the software of the mind. We have the software of the systems, where you argued, and I agree with that the software of the mind is more difficult to change than the software on the systems. And I think we talked about it, education, information is important to, I think what you called it, bring people along, which is key. Now, from what I've seen in the companies I looked at, is also offering actual proof points that what we're doing is actually working, and often that's done in smaller trials. Larger projects takes longer. They can run parallel, but the smaller trials, from what I learned, is important. People get accustomed to it. Maybe, and I leave it up to the floor, one of you want to give an example how you implemented a smaller trial and how you sort of learned from it, build a feedback loop, and use that to constantly improve on using AI or other digital technologies, be it online e-commerce, etc. Maybe go to you, Danny, first. So the whole big data, AI play, the online commerce play, and specifically on very practical examples for the audience, what your learnings are and how have you fed that back into the group to sort of constantly improve. They call it test and learn methodology.
Okay, I can think of an example from one of the projects that I was involved in. So we're trying to implement using AI to look into the code to make it automated, so that it can drastically reduce the manpower, the time taken, right, in terms of how you make sure that your code is secure, right? So this is, of course, you need big data behind it. You need to have all the past data collected, and you need to train the model, right? So, of course, as a start, you try to use a simpler approach, right, to make sure that before you can actually move on to something more complicated. For example, you just use a simple decision tree, right, before you actually train it on the different data set, and then after that, maybe in the later stage, you can actually combine them and look into random forests, right? So this is some of the things that we have actually tried on. So so far it works. You can see the result compared with when you would be doing it manually, and look at what is the improvement over time, right? And then from there you just work. So it's always on a smaller scale, right? And then we apply this so-called plan, do, check, act process. Right, you plan, and then after that you do it on a small scale, and then after that you look at the result. If there's anything that needs to be improved, you go back to the drawing board, improve it, and then you go through the same cycle over and over again until you come up with a more reasonable model that you can actually apply. That's what we have done. Right.
Ooh.
Excellent.
Yeah, I love plan, do, check, act, right? I think that's part of risk framework, right? I think in risk management we talks about how to design, right, how to integrate, and how to continuously monitor, and then subsequently improve, right? I just want to share one example so that I can pass on to Wuti also. This example came from Amazon. I think most of us may not know. When Amazon was building their very first AI project, it was on recruitment, and it went into so much issue where there were biasness, right? There were male and female discrimination at the beginning, and how they actually resolved that was to form a research team. As you can see, it's not easy because um, it is not something that people will know, right? Immediately, because AI learns by itself. It just has that self-learning capability, self-evolving, right? It's like, like Danny, Martin, and Buti, you guys are individual of your own characteristics. Right? I can't break you into projects and manage you, because after this call, you may be a different person and you change. And therefore there's the need to research, right, into this piece of technology. And what Amazon did was they implemented what they call adversarial learning, right, where they actually mask out certain information before they actually use that same information that was produced as an output to put it back into the learning model, so that it reduces some form of biasness, right? So I'm talking layman right now, not mathematical. So maybe I'll just mask out female and male, right? And I put back the same output. And that kind of reduces AI's biasness. And again, if I may emphasize, this is part of how we create AI, right? It is part of how we plan, how we think about the operations, how we think about supporting the operation, and finally implementing and improving. And all this management system requires a different stage of auditing, right? Different stage of stakeholders to be involved, right? So what I'm trying to say here is an AI project is a multidisciplinary project, just like any other digital transformation. And this time now you have to work even closer and in a more agile. Yep.
Yeah,
Back to
agree.
you.
I think something similar here. I think you touch on recruitment, which is something that we also try to work on. As you know, I mean it's a hard job being a life insurance consultant, right? I mean it takes quite a unique personality to to persevere. With the multiple rejection before you get one agreement, to meet, not to purchase, just to have a meeting. So what we have seen in this industry is a frequent churning of agent, be it in the bank assurance space or in the independent agency sort of distribution channel space. So I mean, what we want to be able to do is sort of piggybacking on the or using the profile of the successful agents, and then using that to help sort of detect people with similar characteristic out in the public, in terms of our recruitment drive, to see who would be more likely to survive and then prosper in this industry, and want to test that out as a starting small to see is it like, single mother who has a lot higher perseverance and given the need to support one child, for example. Is that what behind the needed drive for the person to at least pass that first inflection point, so then they understand, there's a very good career in this industry. So we want to also figure out how AI technology can help us in working through this sort of business problem. So if we are to go to a fourth year, just about to graduate university student, for example, so how do we pick among the bunch, right? Who would have the propensity to stay on and maybe want to take on an actual career in the insurance industry, and also take on a sales role. So this is rather useful in terms of how AI can help us. So the more sort of session we had, and then we train back the algorithm, we expect that in a couple of years we could come up with a model where in our recruitment process all these biases are properly managed, and then we get a good pool of candidates where then it reduces the time it takes for us to get to a good one who we know has a higher propensity to again survive and prosper in the industry. So that's the sort of the real application of how AI as a technology can help us in the recruitment space.
I think that is an excellent example, Futi. I used it in the past as well. I think you said the profiling of the agents most successful. And looking at the scripts they're using, or NLP, what's the kind of words they're using, and what we found in the past, and I think you alluded to that. It's a generalization, but this came out of the evaluation that females with children were much more effective in selling life insurances because they could make an emotional connect. It doesn't mean that other people cannot learn it, just to be clear, but naturally they were less inclined to do it. So we used the script also for the other agents, and we saw a significant increase in productivity and customer engagement. So I think that's important. I think the other thing that constantly come back, I think Danny, you named it slightly different, and did you refer to it as well, is that feedback loop. Constantly feeding in the model and what the people are doing, constantly learning, which is, as I think Andit you mentioned, is sort of the secret from AI. It's constantly learning, it's machine learning. Now that also puts a lot of emphasis, again, going to the software of the mind on people, because it probably means they need to be open, they need to have a certain intellectual curiosity, they need to be critical, they want to improve. And I think you alluded to it, but I want to go back to it. What are the key skills you are teaching people? So we talked about the hard skills, the AI, but I believe there's also a lot of soft skills needed to people prepare for this sort of new way of working, where AI is sort of your assistant, etc. Yeah, maybe to you first.
Yeah, I think that's a great question. In fact, it was my my last role with CyberArk, which is a cybersecurity company. We focuses not just our employee, also our partners, right? Into how to basically gain critical thinking, right? And partners here, we talk about some of the engineers. And as you know, engineers are logical, right? Process driven, but they tend to miss out the part on critical thinking, solving skills, and risk management, or even some project management skills, right? And a lot of times these are skills that are being introduced to the leadership team, right? And of course, this is due to companies' budgets, right? And you hire as an engineer, you work as an engineer. But when it comes to AI, as I mentioned, the engineers are the tier one, right? They are the level one people who builds in, right, how the technology should behave. And you can imagine when we build in good stuff, AI will amplify the good. And that's what people talked about AI for good. Now, what if I created an AI to write phishing email that mimics Martin's multi-portfolio companies. I don't have to target any other companies. I just need to target Martin, and I will phish him. And this gets amplified. Isn't that very scary, right? So the danger and the opportunity for AI lies at this point when, when the technical people, the scientists, the business leaders, and what I always introduce in my classes, this group of people that potentially what we call AI ethicists. It's a full-time job. What is moral and what's not moral, right? To be able to gel, right, these two groups of people, right? And what I'm trying to allude to is it is tough, right, for someone to be knowing everything, especially when it comes to talking about the responsible use of AI and building an ethical AI. It is very tough, right? So the entire AI center of excellence in the banking sector, in the insurance sector, or in any company right now needs to include these elements, these social science individuals, right, who will play a part in that team, right, to basically co-create other than making everyone learn. When you co-create, that is a learning process by itself. Yeah. So that's something I hope to share with the audience, and that if you guys are interested, yeah, you can always chat and hear out more.
Excellent. And I think the co-creation, as you pointed out, forces you in a way to cooperate, listen to others, and learn to work together. Maybe a quick reaction of Danny and Futi, and I see a few questions in the chat appearing. So after we have concluded these questions, we can go to the questions in the chat. Maybe Danny, anything to comment on this? Sort of the soft skill on the software of the mind.
Yeah, I think not just the technical aspect of things, the domain knowledge is also equally important. You still have to work with the experts in that particular industry, in a particular domain, so that things don't go wrong. Because if you just leave it to the technical people to do it, they may just use their own way of interpretation, and then the things may go wrong, like what Andy just mentioned, because of maybe miscommunication or misunderstanding of what you actually are implementing in the process. Yep.
Excellent.
I mean, not much I can say, but I think perhaps one other angle that we can think about is, I guess the authenticity of of the view expressed by the customer, because what Andy and Danny alluded to is to do this feedback, right? So if you are testing your idea, your proposition with the customer, with the actual real customer, so that whether or not they're likely to pay for it, want to become sort of commercially available. I mean, what I have seen, and I think that a caution needs to be made here is that process, that research process, so to speak, because if it's not done right, I mean, what get fed back into the AI system could also be quite misleading. So just that classic scenario of incomplete or incorrect information in the net, when what you get back out isn't as good. So I mean, in Cambodian context again, I mean, it's very hard to do a proper research with people, because they just don't like to give you the sufficient time that you need to do proper conversation, so that you can probe sufficiently around what you need to find out. First, they may not be fully aware of the topics, and then you need to spend a lot of time just building the base base knowledge base, and get to the base point where the next question can make sense, and then whatever you get out of the next question you ask is carries some usefulness that you can bring back to your AI model. But just to get to that point of reaching that base sort of knowledge with your intended future customer is very hard. And then to do that right, two things that we always see is very time consuming and very costly. and most of the time it's quite hard to quantify the impact. So senior management has always been very reluctant to invest in these things. So that's a real practical challenge. So in my role, how do I manage that? If the decision rests with me, so how do I know, my team does this well enough so that if I commit my fund into this, I know that, I'll get my, my return back, right? And if I have to ask my board, for more money, then it's the same thing, So what do we need to show them that without doing this properly, then all we need is just talking in space. You don't really have hard stuff to feed into the model. You have, but you can't be quite confident that whatever you feed back into the model is good enough. And then later on, when something doesn't pan out as we all expect, then you start seeing finger going around quite typically. Then this whole saga, right? What could go wrong? It can really spoil the party very, very quickly. Having started very, very happily. Yeah, so I think that's the one that as a practitioner we have come across many times. So still a very practical challenge for us to deal with every time.
And I think that's definitely key. We alluded to it. 72% of digital transformation, including AI transformation, is not bringing the value. So I think quick wins, constantly learning, evolving, and probably starting on a small scale, again, as a lesson to the audience is recommended. I think, Andit, you mentioned the very large Allianz transformation program. Yeah?
Yep.
Was that
I think they,
considered,
yep.
was that objectively seen as a success in the industry or not? It's a lot of money
Yeah, I mean,
involved.
yeah, claim management has traditionally been a very manual process, right? I think if you're able to reduce processing time, improve customer satisfaction, I think that's some of the questions that people on call are looking at. But more importantly is are the employees ready, right, with the right skill sets in managing and interpreting some of the outputs of AI, right? Because you can't entirely let the AI run on that claim management system, right? You still need that few employees that could be part of the process, right, to provide the human feedbacks, right, to reinforce the learning. That is crucial. But I think more importantly, if what I could see in this investment that Allianz has put in, they are looking at something beyond themselves as an insurance company. I'm applying this to the banking as well. I think in the AI segment, we are even talking about the term autonomous organization, where this organization is fully, run by AI. Perhaps the entity itself is served by the various functions right now that is in the company, say a HR, a finance, a legal, would now be in a decentralized mode, right? So when you are decentralized, you're smaller, but yet you work like a startup, yet you're more agile, and you're serving this original bank that you were part of. So you realize that there's a trend where AI and blockchain are emerging. Like they are converging into we are converging conversation into this sort of discussion where when say a bank or insurance company, after spending the investments and the research to become autonomous, people worry that they will be out of job, but that's not true. Now each of the department heads could become a CEO themselves. They are now being placed in a much higher value role, right, to lead the next generation of industry or functions, right, that can continue to serve the autonomous organization, right, be it as a vendor, be it as a supplier, be it as a customer. I think that's something see in the next 30 to 50 years. I know there are questions they're asking, and I hope why Alliance is sort of investing in such a big amount of investment is because they kind of have that kind of vision where they may no longer be just an insurance company. They're something else. Yep.
Excellent. And I think you partly answered the question that was coming from the audience, and I will just read the questions. How do you foresee the role of AI in banking evolving, and I would expand it to life insurance as well over the next 5 to 10 years? I mean, maybe to add to it, I am regular in San Francisco, and I'm very aware that AI innovation comes from everywhere, but San Francisco is still a bit of a hot spot. And one of the startups had actually built an AI board advisor. Microsoft is already using it, from what I understood. So this is an AI agent that acts as a board, and I think then that will be quite applicable to SMEs as well, where sometimes it's difficult or expensive to find things. So yeah, please expand on the questions that we had, or and the sort of the automation. And I think indeed you took an even longer horizon. You said 30 to 50 years. Autonomous companies or decentralized autonomous organizations. Very, very interesting. So Danny, over to you.
I think I am looking at is in the future 5 to 10 years, probably there will be a lot of integration of all the existing new technology, be it AI, 5G, big data, your online commerce, right? All this in one way or another, and in another, they will be converging, right? And serve us better, right? For example, AI with your big data, right? That's where your machine learning, your deep learning, your analytics are. Your 5G with your big data will actually help you to achieve faster and more reliable data transfer and analytics. And for AI with 5G, right, you will end up with AI-powered applications and services, leveraging on the 5G connectivity. And of course, online commerce, that is where is public facing, right, and where customer actually communicate with the company, right? So if you have your online commerce with your big data, your data-driven insights and personalizations can be achieved easily, right? With AI, then your customer service in terms of having it AI-powered, your recommendation engines, your fraud detection, all these are already in one way or another already. We are using it, and we are actually implementing it in some of the areas in our business, right? And then of course 5G will actually give you a fast and seamless online shopping experiences. And in fact, right now, some example of bankings and insurance company using the integration of all these various combinations. People like Singlife in Singapore, they are actually using digital experiences to connect with the customer on their preferred channel, right? And another example could be your Salesforce, right? They are multi-cloud solutions are being used by insurance company to integrate AI and their data strategies to automate and also to augment the insurance processes. Right, so moving forward, I think there are a couple of ways that this can be implemented, right, in terms of how innovations can come into play, right? Your automation and digitalizations, your personalized services, actionable insights, right, using data analytics and AI, your customized service, omni-channel experience, your process can be done faster, right, because of 5G, and then efficient insurance management in terms of your integration of AI, deep learning, machine learning, and even blockchain that was mentioned earlier on by Andy. And also risk management, right? You can't run away from risk management. Your data analytic can actually gain better insight into customers' behavior, and then enabling the insurers to manage the risk more effectively. Right? So these are some of the things I foresee is going to be evolving, right, in time to come. Right. Thank you.
Excellent. Maybe Futi?
Okay. I mean, if I may come from a very quite a different angle, is rather phrasing the question, what do I, how do we foresee, right? And maybe as a practitioner, so how do we create things in next 5 to 10 years? using the availability of various, sort of AI-related technology, right? So one interesting area that, definitely we want to do here is to increase the level of awareness of the importance of insurance, be it life, be it general, be it micro. It's just to, as part of the, the improved inclusion, right, of the, access to insurance products. So rather than thinking of, how do we bring them in, how do we bring the population into our conversation, see how we can use AI to go to where the customer already live, or the population already live. I mean, most people would spend, most of our customer in the next 5 to 10 years today have perhaps 70 of their life on TikTok, maybe Facebook, Instagram together, plus, some of few popular messaging apps, depending on countries. So you combine those 4 or 5 major apps together. That's where future customer in the next 5 to 10 years today spend their life. So if we are to bring awareness around importance of the, either banking products, services, or insurance product and services to them, the question is, how do we appear in their life? How do I make insurance pop up in their TikTok video, for example, so that, we don't feel, we don't create, sort of annoying, experiences, at least in their view, but we're just there, and then in a fun way where, they're there anyway. So the fact that they see, a few messages, there, over, 1 week, over 1 month, and then over 1 quarter, 6 months, over 1 year, and then, can we increase that degree of awareness, of the availability and importance, of such services and products that way. So I think that's probably a lot more interesting to me as a practitioner, because it's a lot harder to try to bring them to have the conversation with us, and particularly in the life insurance, industry. But if we can find ways to use AI for us to get ourselves embedded into how the the future customer are today living their life, I think that's a lot easier, because there's no forcing. We just need to figure out a way to just be there with them, and then learning from them, maybe these dynamic product development, dynamic pricing, and then also dynamic fulfillment. So end to end, but depending on who, so selling to you is going to be very different compared to selling to Danny, or Andy, for that matter, even for the same product, for the same coverage, just because you three are very different individuals. So that would be, I think in my word, would be very cool.
Excellent. And I think you're referring to the micro moments that you have with clients, and how do you embed it in their digital journey. You can embed it in certain services, embedded finance, embedded insurance is on, and offering the personalized service. So I think, Puti, that is an excellent point. Maybe a very quick summary. I think Bill Gates said it quite nicely. He has been many times wrong as well, but he said, if you believe something have an impact, it always takes more effort than you think, and it takes longer than you think. And I think we see that with AI as well. But he also said, if it happens, the impact is much larger than you could imagine. I think, Andit, you pointed a picture of 30, 50 years ahead, but we see already significant change happening. Also in the shorter term, I think the point that came back is the software of the mind. How do we prepare the people from it, from a hard skill perspective, but also from a soft skill perspective, working together, co-innovation, feedback loops is absolutely key. The test and learn. Focus on quick wins as well. Again, I would like to point that to the audience. Having done a large number of digital transformations myself, the fact is that 72%, according to BCG and McKinsey, is not bringing the value that we want. So we need to take that into account. So I have that big picture ready, but also focus on quick wins where you see if you can scale up. Look at points where you can use the converging technology as bringing a competitive advantage to yourself. I think one of the examples, it's from South America, it's Nubank. Nubank has, according to a GR report, a cost of $90 to serve a client. They use AI personalized service interaction. I think it was one of the questions as well. That is 20 to 50 times cheaper than Brazilian traditional banks. So that is really creating a very, very competitive advantage. And I think that would be sort of my last feedback to the audience. Focus on a number of use cases. You can map all of them, but just take 2 or 3, get started, and only when you're successful, scale it up, and never ever forget your clients, as I think Putty, you eloquently point out, and do not forget the people that are working for you, that Andit and Danny very eloquently pointed out. So thank you very much. I hope it has been learning for everyone, and yeah, feel free to reach out to any of us if you have any further questions. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.